free?
The day we're recording this, we're finally out of the confinement of our own homes.
Yeah. Tell you what. It was what Ben's referencing is that
We went back to COVID.
we had a
COVID week.
Kind of felt like it, right?
It felt exactly like that.
I went to the grocery store Monday night. So we're recording this on a Friday. And we had a sprinkling of ice and snow earlier in the week. And what would be a Tuesday in like the Northeast or Midwest,
A normal, just every day.
shut us down in Dallas. Shut us down.
We had to go home Monday afternoon.
Yep.
Is when it all went down.
Yep.
And we literally just got out of our house. My boy's school, your kid's school, still on a Friday. Keep in mind, it's 50 degrees and sunny today.
Yeah.
School was still canceled today.
Still canceled. Yeah.
So we were in our homes from Monday afternoon. It sounds like you got out a little bit Friday night.
Yeah,
you
I'm
rebel.
a rebel. I'm a rebel.
But we were in our house. I was in my house from Monday afternoon till today. Today's
Yep.
the first time I ventured out. It really did. It felt like, trying to get work done at home when the kids are running around, and it really did. It felt like COVID all over again.
It was wild. It was just it was an interesting deal because again, there was two things, and I was talking to somebody this morning about it. It was like frustrating because I ended up just sitting in front of my computer working from like 7:30.
Yeah, it wasn't a snow day for us.
No,
it was
because everything is still going. Because we do a lot of stuff outside of DFW, so like nobody else cares that like you got a little weather. But like it was also kind of fun too because we've talked about this before. Kind of that, not the doomsday prepper, but like you're like, all right, if everything hits the fan, like, am I going to be able to am I okay? Mm-hmm. Am I going to be able to survive in circumstances that are out of the ordinary? And this was not that at all by any means because there wasn't anything like threatening or crazy. But like Monday night, I ended up working in town until about 6 o'clock that night. And then I go home, and as you're driving north from like the DFW metro area to where I live, there was this line. It was just north of your house. It was like north of Frontier. No, that doesn't mean anything to anybody here, but north of this one street that divides the city I live in and the city that Ben lives in. And it went from nothing to like 3 inches of snow where we were at. And it was like, on my way home, I literally helped 4 people out like from getting stuck.
Did you really?
Because it was just like people had no business being out. It was like someone would want to run to the grocery store. And this is part of it is people were freaking out because there was these white things coming out of the sky and landing on the ground. It was a little bit slippery. So like, I've got to buy all the toilet paper. I've got to buy everything because I'm going to be apparently locked in my house for 30 days.
All thoughts of community and looking out for others go out the window.
You see that. You totally see that.
The survival mode kicks in.
100%. And I went to the grocery store. I mean, I was grabbing some ice cream because I was like, all right, cool.
Guess I'll get fat this week.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, back to the pandemic 15. But it was just crazy. And all these people, like they weren't fighting, but like you could tell there was like a restlessness over something so minor.
Right.
And then like on the way home, I'm like, bro, you're in like a 2-door Mercedes. Like you have no business being out here right now. What are you doing? And then also too, and like, I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but like if like people are pulled over, stopping what they're doing to help you and you're stuck in your car, would you think that it would be, let me give you option A is to sit in your car and let them pull you out.
Yes.
Or
it's cold out there. I'm not going out there.
Or B, like get out, even though you don't know what to do, like act like you're there to
give
help.
Some effort.
Yes,
show
a little bit.
Yeah, show
just
a
little
bit.
bit.
Yeah.
Like it got to the point where like, look, either you like help me find like this attachment that's supposed to like be able to like pull you out, or I'm just going to hook it to your plastic bumper. I'm going to hook my tow rope to your plastic bumper and rip that thing off. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But like, if you're not even willing to get out of your car to look in your trunk for an accessory, like,
Yeah.
So it was just funny. It really was funny. And, true colors come out in times like that.
Yep.
You know, by the time we got to yesterday, I was like, okay, I'm over this. Like, please, like, let's get back
it was kind of nice day one, just because again we hadn't done it in a while.
Yeah.
And it was cool to be home, work from home. But
the kids loved playing outside. Thought it was so cool.
Well, that's the other thing is it wasn't snow; it was ice. So it wasn't. Well, maybe y'all's place had a little bit better.
Tuesday was softer.
Yeah.
Like the kids could still sled and they could do all that. Then it literally, like in where I live, it's kind of rolling hills, so there's nothing that's really flat except for my like driveway outside of my garage, and everything else, it literally was like hills of ice. And the great parents that Tiffany and I are were like, go outside and play on the rock hard ice,
please.
Yeah,
get out of here.
And if you fall, don't cry, or you're coming inside. that was our parenting technique.
Yeah.
But it was great. They had a blast.
And no issues with pipe. We didn't have any pipe issues or power loss, and that was nice. I know down in Austin, I think it got pretty sketchy. I think a lot of people lost power and water and.
I think they got heavier ice because I saw a lot more tree and power damage down there. Yeah. Whereas up north, which is interesting, typically it's colder up here.
Right. It is so funny though, because people in Minnesota, and I mean this is a normal, and yet
it would be a light. That would be a light, like weather pattern that comes through there.
We just don't have the means to handle it, and we're all just kind of stuck. So, anyway, we're out of that now. As you're listening to this, this would have been last week, and I think if I'm playing weatherman for foreshadowing, I think it's like 60 right now as you're listening to this in Texas. So we went from the teens to 60.
So the other thing I heard today was that this was like third longest stretch of being below freezing. It was like
really
96 hours straight. It was like Monday afternoon to yesterday at like 4 or 5 p.m. that it got over freezing. And I don't think we ever got over freezing where I'm at.
Yeah.
But today would have been the first time that we like got over freezing in this entire week stretch.
Interesting.
So
glad to be out.
Yep.
Not what we're going to talk about today, but before we do jump in, do want to thank our partners, Choctaw Casinos and Resort. Weather's starting to turn a little bit. We're at least seeing. I know we just had a freezing week, but we're at least seeing.
I don't know why. I don't know why I think of that. If you heard that Theo Vaughn one, he goes, we're in the midst of spring, everybody, and Joe Rogan's like, it's January. We're not in the this is like as winter as it gets. He goes, you're not open-minded.
Yeah, you're not open-minded. Yeah, here in Texas, February means spring. So what I think about
and then
when
we get second winter in March. Usually.
What I think about when I think of warmer weather is the new resort.
Yeah, buddy.
And the pool, pool and bar. So that's coming over. But now, that's the great thing about Choctaw Casinos and Resort. There's something for every part of the year. So all the great restaurants, all the great slot machines and tables and things like that. And I used to say also, I'll reiterate, I'm not much of a gambler. Like those things don't really stick out to me, and I still have an amazing time when I go up there. So even if you're sitting here thinking like, well, I don't gamble, there's still tons of stuff to do up there. So get yourself up.
Do you like gaming? Do you like sports? Do you like food? Do you like entertainment? Do you like music?
I like most of those things.
All of those. They have like an inordinate amount of activities surrounding those topics. So again, go check it out. And again, the new edition, it's next level. They're going back and they're going to renovate the whole original side of it, redoing the spa, redoing everything. It's going to be awesome.
Next level.
Yep.
So get yourself up there. And then our second partner, actually, as you're listening to this, we are in Phoenix, Arizona with Sleep Number on Super Bowl week on Radio Row, having an awesome time with them. And my wife made the comment again the other day because she was out of the house for the weekend. She said, man, it's just so nice sleeping in our Sleep Number bed. It's so nice sleeping in our bed. So sleepnumber.com, any retail store, they're all over the place. They really are next level when it comes to your sleep quality.
And just to clarify, Sleep Number is not going to fix your marriage problems like Ben has because his wife has to leave and then come back
actually
because of the bed. But
actually, I won some brownie points. I sent her off on a girls' weekend. That was one of her Christmas gifts. Yeah, so I had the boys by myself. She got to go off.
So you went weekend with the boys and then a week at home with the boys. Yes. You need this. You need this so Super Bowl break.
So this break that I'm getting right now is actually very well timed and very awesome. So get yourself to sleepnumber.com and check them out. But today's topic, Tyrone, a couple of articles that stuck out to me that I thought we haven't had this conversation yet, and I think it's time. First article headline from Yahoo News. New York scraps word inmate from state law. Let's dive in, shall we? New York has amended several state laws to remove the word, quote, inmate and replace it with incarcerated person to refer to people that are serving prison time. I wish you could see Tyler's face right. I knew it wouldn't take me long to get that face. Let me continue. The changes signed into law Monday by Governor Kathy Hochul are intended to reduce the stigma of being in jail. Prison reform advocates, this isn't a joke, this is a real article. Prison reform advocates have said the term inmate has a dehumanizing effect. Prisoners say it can feel degrading when jail guards refer to them as inmates, especially in front of their families during in-person visits. Language matters, said State Senator Gustavo Rivera. This is another concrete step our state is taking to make our criminal justice system one that focuses on rehabilitation rather than relying solely on punishment. The change is the latest in the state legislature's history of amending terms in state law that may be seen as outdated or offensive. In 2018, the legislature passed the law replacing all instances of the word fireman or policeman with gender-neutral terms like firefighter or police officer in official documents and laws. Michael DeGraff, a professor of linguistics at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, said, quote, word choice to describe certain individuals does matter, especially when it comes to individuals who are vulnerable in any way, end quote.
All right, I want to start off with this. This is a prime example of reading into the article before you make an assumption based off of the headline. Because my face was based off of the headline and even first sentence.
Scraps word inmate in state law?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can get on board about a state's correctional facilities being about rehabilitation. I'm on board with that. Like, let's focus on that than like focusing on making their life like hell. Mm-hmm. Like, let's focus on building them so that they can then exit whenever they do and contribute to society. All about that. Now,
say what you really want to say.
Now, the other side of me says, are you also going to get rid of the term felon? Because that's...
Well, yeah, we should.
There's a stigma associated with that, like a convicted felon. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard to get a job when you say I'm a convicted felon. You're going to get rid of that too? Mm-hmm. When you make choices, there are consequences. I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I'm not saying that you don't deserve a fair shot at the rest of your life. I'm not saying any of that. But there are consequences and there are things. For example, if you were a sex offender and you did something that qualified you as a sex offender that has stigma to it. Mm-hmm. You made that decision to do something illegal, whatever it may be. You have to live with that. Mm-hmm. And you have to register everywhere you're at. Because if you had the inclination to perform that act, then you have a propensity to do it again. So guess what? There's a consequence. And you have to live with that title.
Speaking of that, have you heard the people that say they shouldn't be called pedophiles? Have you heard this one?
What are you supposed to call it?
We shouldn't call them pedophiles. We should call them minor attracted people.
No.
Yes. That there is enough people trying to make that a thing that it reached my ears here in Dallas, Texas. Yeah.
Dude, I can't. Like, I can't. I can't. Like, you're just changing words as all you're doing. It means the same thing. Now, like this thing, it just seems highly inefficient. Inmate or incarcerated person. Which one rolls off the tongue faster? It means the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really confused. Like, you made choices in life. Okay, look, let me also recognize the population that are incarcerated for committing crimes that either are no longer crimes or are falsely accused and convicted. Mm-hmm. There's a small population there. So I'm going to recognize those people there. But you made a decision to do something illegal. You have to live with those consequences. And you know what? Those are not just slang terms. Like, there's reasons that those words are what they are, right? So this is just another one of those deals to make everybody happy and fit. But if we lived with understanding and respecting the consequences of actions, maybe, just maybe, we would deter people from actually doing those things.
Yeah, and I brought this up, obviously. I want to go down this road here in a minute, but I want to work you up just a little bit more.
Yeah,
it wasn't just purely to work you up here. There's going to be a point to this.
Ben loves this.
Second article, again, from Yahoo News. Why experts say banning words does more harm than good. The words Latinx and field are gaining national attention as state leaders and educational institutions either ban the words or implement internal guidelines on how to use them appropriately in an effort to promote inclusion and equity. Quote, the more we restrict and limit speech, the less diverse ideas, perspectives, and discussions will be, end quote. Sharice Trump, executive director of Speech First, said in a statement to Yahoo News. Most recently, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders banned the word Latinx from official use.
What is Latinx?
It's the gender-neutral phrase for Latino or Latina.
Oh.
It's the wokesters' way of, instead of assuming, if you were a Hispanic individual, instead of assuming your gender, I would say you're Latinx. You're not Latino, because I don't want to assume that you're a male.
But doesn't X represent female anyways?
That's a good question. That's beyond my pay grade.
Isn't that like isn't David? Am I right?
I don't know.
Y chromosome's male, X chromosome is female, right?
It's a good question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked that.
Gosh, why do I always have to be the smartest person in the room?
Latinx. Oh, here we go. Latinx is a gender neutral alternative to Latino, Latina, and is considered by progressives to be an LGBTQ inclusive term. The order cites a 2020 Pew Research study that found that only 3% of American Latinos and Hispanics use the term Latinx to describe themselves. It does not say that the same study reports that 76% of Latino adults have not heard of the term, which has caused division within the community. So I want to call out that sentence real quick.
Yeah, please do.
They're trying to make a point that the only reason only 3% use it is because most people haven't heard of it. Okay, well then is it accomplishing your goal if nobody's ever heard of it? And is that accomplishing the goal that you're after, which is to make this an inclusive term? I would argue no, it's not.
But this is that's the agenda that I have an issue with. Is there's a very small population trying to make it a big deal to the greater population and forcing decisions on people that aren't ready either to make those decisions or have no interest in it, but feel like they have to choose one side or the other.
Right. So the article continues. Additionally, the University of Southern, this one will get you either upset or just dumbfounded, one of the two. Additionally, the University of Southern California of Social Work announced the removal of the word field from curriculum on the grounds that it can carry racist connotations related to slavery. In a January 9th letter, the School of Social Work explained that the removal of the word will promote more inclusive language. Language can be powerful, and phrases such as going into the field or field work may have connotations for descendants of slavery and immigrant workers that are not benign, the letter stated. While several entities push to ban words or issue guidelines in an attempt to promote inclusion and diversity, some experts say it won't lead to progress because discussions are needed to work towards a solution. Quote, when you have very deeply divided people having these conversations, it's a really easy guide to say, let's just not say this word, Bonilla said. On both sides of the political spectrum, issues of race and identity and equity are actually really complicated, and it's hard for people to have discussions, both because it requires learning and deep thought and potentially even changing habits.
So what about like athletic field, like the field of play? I mean, is that going to be, is that,
you gotta change
it would be
that
removed?
too.
It would be removed then?
According to Southern California, it's whatever.
Why?
You can't say that.
Here's a couple questions. How come you don't ever see like quotes on these topics from like University of North Texas or Texas Christian or
because they're not
University of Alabama or University of Tennessee? Like, why are you not seeing? I mean, granted, I mean, you're not thinking of those as like academic scholars by any means, but I mean, removing a word that one has a number of different meanings. It's not that, hey, field of work, going out in the field, I mean, it's a stretch. It's a stretch. But I think if you ask any tradesman, anybody that works, as a contractor, plumber, electrician, whatever, if you were to say that, ask any of them, do they feel like, oh, you're disrespecting me? Like you're relating, what I do to slavery. Yeah. I mean, I would have a hard time seeing that a large population would feel that way. Yeah. So much. Here's what's funny. This is coming from the University of Southern California. You know what the annual tuition is there?
Like $60,000.
I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that now.
Yeah.
So you have students, and a small percentage of those may be on scholarship, but you have students that have either the ability to get financial aid or parents that can pay. It's a private school, $60,000 a year plus for college, and
let's go learn about banned words.
Hey David, come on, man! I need you researching. USC tuition.
Yeah, that's another one.
All right, here we go. Yeah, so 61,503 is your average. So you were right on point. I was also right because I said I think it's a little bit more than that now. So
I'm pretty smart. So yeah.
By the way, I'm going to go back. It is X chromosome for females, so it is actually leading towards a gender, but whatever. So you have these people. How many of your student population that thinks this is so offensive are actually like subject to this? That you're just creating conflict, creating reactions from probably a majority of the population. Like that's just like absurd to remove that word from our language.
Yeah, and these are silly examples, and I bring this up more for the overall conversation of self-censorship.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe we're not gonna, where we live, the word field's gonna be banned. Yeah. But I think it's an overall narrative that I wanted to have a discussion on, which is this, because I think I agree with the premise of you want to treat people with respect and dignity. Yeah. Of course. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. I think the way that we're going about it may be a bit misguided though.
Yeah.
And so I guess the question is this a bad thing leading us down a road of banning certain words and certain phrases aren't allowed to be said? Because, and not to be some dumb football jock guy, but when I read stuff like that, the first thing I think is clearly these aren't people that have never spent time in a locker room with people from all different backgrounds.
Right. 100%.
Because the locker room for us was an arena where my locker was literally next to a row of, they were all related, something like cousins and brothers and half brothers. There's like 4 guys, and they were all from a small town in Texas, from the hood, for lack of a better. Yeah. So I got to rub elbows from people from completely different backgrounds than me, and the jokes we would make to each other. Yeah, I don't even want to repeat them on this podcast because it would get us in trouble. Well, because but that's the point, is that we had a relationship with each other. Right. We loved each other. We were comfortable with each other, making those, because that's how we bonded in the locker room. Yeah. It wasn't seen as an offensive. I think when people see things as offensive, it's because there's no relationship there.
So that's it. That there has to be trust. Right. You couldn't do that. You couldn't walk into the locker room and you couldn't start making jokes about growing up in the hood or whatever, right? Yep. Like you couldn't do that because you didn't have that level of trust with them, knowing that, like, I know this dude's heart. But that's the problem, is we have so many people that want to point the finger and want to, change this, or, this is wrong or this is bad, that one, either haven't lived through it, or if they haven't made the effort to go find relationship with other people about this, and deep-rooted relationship that maybe some of these things are coming from. Now, are there words out there that are highly offensive? Absolutely. No doubt. I mean, no doubt. But like, that I don't think are appropriate, 100%. But to say words that are like verbs or nouns or adjectives that are just widely used as like that, those are physical things, like, and to remove those from your vocabulary is just, it's insane.
Does banning words Does that create harm in a society? And if it does,
does banning words create harm?
Does that trend? Okay, so yes, it does.
Yeah.
That's your opinion. How does that negatively affect
because you start banning words, now you're censoring, and now you are eliminating, even if you're doing it from just a like socially correct standpoint, right? But if you're banning words, now you're now limiting people's ability to like communicate and discuss with the full access of it. Now, just because, and that's the other thing too. Like, what was I watching? Anyways, the premise is why should the son pay for the father's sin, right? Why should a son be chastised because of the things that a father did? So yes, there was like unbelievable harm done. There was unbelievable injustice in the past and things that have been done, and there still is today. I'm not disregarding that, but those things were done from people that had hate and evil and ignorance in their heart. Like, so why are you now projecting their feelings, their actions, their behaviors onto somebody else that is using the English vocabulary to describe something that's been described that way? Like, if it's insensitive, if you find it insensitive and somebody uses that in front of you, you have absolutely the right to say, hey, listen, look, I don't love that word. It makes me feel like, my ancestors who worked in the fields, like, I feel like that's just kind of degrading. Do you mind using something else? Fine. Look, that's your choice. But to now remove it and make that choice for everybody else, there's a problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, and this is an original thought, but because no thoughts are original, but to me, you don't ban word. That's not the solve. That's not the problem solve. No. To me, you have to have these discussions, right? It's the good idea, the best idea wins.
Yeah.
We need to be having these debates. We need to be having these healthy conversations instead of just saying these words are off limits. To me, it's more about let's have a dialogue. Let's have a conversation about it. And so I do think about, though, from a self-censorship perspective, I do think, again, it's kind of nuanced because there are phrases and things that I used to say in college that feel just weird to even think that I used to say. Like, I'm not going to say it here, but another term for a gay person that we used to just throw that word around.
Dude, as
like
a kid,
it was nothing.
All the time.
Like it was nothing. Like that's just like how I said what's up to you.
Yeah. What's up, bag?
So, but now I sit here at 35 and I think, okay, that's a word I'm glad has been phased out of my. In fact, I heard it not the other day. This was like last year playing slow pitch softball. A dude said it, and it just like
it's like kind of cringy.
It felt cringe at the moment, at the time.
But so that's what society does, right? Society will filter out like
we phase that out. And so that I'm totally on board with self-censorship in that perspective. Like I'm not going to go around just using that word.
Yeah.
But you start getting into words like field or, what was the other one? Latinx or these or like not calling somebody a pedophile. Like, those things to me, that's when you start getting past the line of this has a good focus, this has a good reason, this is taking us a step forward.
Yeah.
I don't see how banning these type of words is progressing us forward in a positive direction.
Is banning the word inmate going to prevent an 18-year-old kid from robbing a liquor store?
Right.
Or, selling drugs or stealing something from whatever, right? Is banning that word going to actually make a change? And to your point is instead of removing vocabulary, let's focus on changing hearts.
Yeah.
Let's focus on pouring into our youth so that there is empathy, there is respect, there is accountability, all those things that like our kids need to have. And instead of just, hey, we're gonna, you know what? No. They're bad because you use the word inmate. It's not allowing them to get jobs anymore because they feel like that's holding them back. Like that's the laziest way to handle it. Like, let's do the hard work and pour into the kids.
Yeah. And I think another thing in the way it hurts us is in a certain way, it's the sticks and stones mentality, which we've gotten away from.
Yeah.
Which is consonants and vowels are not going to affect my feelings.
Yeah.
And yet, and this is a phrase I'd never even heard before the last 3 years, but virtue signaling. That's really all of this is virtue signaling. It's showing you how.
Still never heard that word.
You never heard that term?
No.
It's basically the idea of, I'm going to show you how virtuous I am by standing on these certain principles.
Oh.
I'm gonna signal to society that I'm a virtuous person by banning these words from my vocabulary. I'm going to show you how good of and how much I love other people. Yeah. To me, it's the whole sticks and stones mentality, and as that book talks about, which I bring up way more than I should, which is preparing the child for the road, not the road for the child.
Yeah.
So
we're not teaching strategically. Put this on top.
So in my household, the lessons that I'm going to teach my kids is about ignoring feedback that's not productive to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to get all upset about it and make a big stink and start just ignore it.
Yeah.
Move on. Focus on something else. And now that's hard. That's a hard lesson to learn. But to me, as in my parenting style, that's going to be, I see that as more of a productive way to approach this.
That's right. And you know, the book that I'm holding right now is The Coddling of the American Mind. If this is a topic that like stirs you a little bit, I would highly suggest you reading this book, because it talks a lot about, I mean, really the whole thing is based around this subject and how people are taking words and correlating words to violence, right?
Harm.
Is you are physically harming me with your verbal words. Like, you're not doing anything to me, but I feel harmed, and there is trauma. And this word trauma has just been thrown out because of words. But to your point, sticks and stones is teaching our kids is the only way words have power is when you allow them to have power, and you allow them to like affect you and allow them to like attack your identity, attack your beliefs, affect you. And when you allow that, then yeah, but that does not correlate to resilience. That does not correlate to success. That does not, if what people are saying bothers you and affects you so much, then you really need to go back and look at the foundation of who you are as a person, in your identity. And you really need to work on that and focus on that. Now, I'm not saying like if someone says something, my feelings are never hurt. Like my feelings get hurt quite a bit.
You're a human being.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying that's don't let it hurt you ever. It's really easy to say, but you have to be conscious that they're just words. And they talk about in Proverbs, they talk about like all these things, you know, of this world are vapor, right? Like all the material possessions, all the things that you can gain are, and there's a Hebrew word for it, but it's vapor. It just goes away. Words just literally, the second they are said, they can either be taken and held onto and given a life to like stick around, or you can just let them go and they become vapor. They're not, they should have no more impact on you. Yeah. The only way that they have impact on you is what you're talking about, is if you have relationship with someone and you have trust with someone and they say something to you that what they say you value because of the trust, not because you have an Instagram profile with a bunch of listeners, not because you're on a news show, not because you're a politician, not because, you know, you're a sports star or whatever, but because I trust you and the words that are coming out of your mouth, I believe with all of your intent are coming from either a good place, honest place, or an educated place. But when you just are affected because somebody in Arizona is using the word, you know, inmate, like this, I feel attacked. Yeah. No, you chose to be a criminal, and you are a convicted felon. You were an inmate when you were in prison. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. Man, it's just, long story short is we need some mental fortitude back in our culture, because we've just become so soft. Hevel.
Hevel.
Dude, see, that's what I'm saying.
Thanks, Jamie.
That's our Jamie right there.
Yeah, I think intent matters for sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, banning certain words that the intention of saying that word, like saying field work, for instance, there was no intent behind me saying field work and linking that to slavery. Yeah. If there's no intent for that, then that's when we can just sweep under the rug. It's not a big deal.
Look, if there's a word that makes better sense, I haven't even had time to think through it. Maybe there is. Maybe just start using it and like see if it makes more sense.
Yeah. I think, again, the way that I'm going to approach it with my family is how I think about this is just love and empathy.
Yeah.
And there's certain phrases and things that were said at one time that weren't really seen as big of a deal. I'm glad they've been phased out.
Yeah.
There's other things that I think we're just reaching too far, and we're just virtue signaling. We're trying to get
virtue signaling. That's a good one.
There you go. We're trying to get score some social credibility points here. So for me, that's the basis here is love and empathy.
Yeah.
And so I can joke around with Darren and I joke around all the time. He's telling me, you know, making fun of white people. I'm making fun of him all the time. That's just our relationship. That's how we are. And I think phasing that out is not helpful because we have that relationship.
Right.
That's just part of our how we get along with each other. Yep. Now, again, somebody I don't know, I wouldn't make those same jokes.
Right.
And so it's just knowing the situation, knowing when it's appropriate, when it's not. But to me, just trying to start banning stuff and really
that would
censor things out.
That would require teaching kids emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Which is much more difficult than saying, let's ban this word.
Yes, it is.
What's easier to say? Hey, you can't say X.
Yeah.
Or is it, hey, I'm going to teach you emotional intelligence?
Yeah, like be able to read the crowd, be able to understand where and when it is appropriate and not appropriate to say certain things, joke. And I'm not saying like when it's appropriate to say inappropriate things. I'm just saying there's context, right? And it's different. And so in some settings, saying one thing in the right context is not offensive. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's either humor or it's accurate or it's helpful, or in other settings that you have to know the difference is, okay, look, this could probably be taken a certain way. Even though that's not what I mean, it could be taken a certain way. So I'm going to be conservative and I'm just going to maybe not say that. Yeah. Like crazy idea. I mean, there's so many people now and like old and I feel like the older generation has less of it, to just be honest with you.
Yeah.
And maybe they just care less. I don't know. Yeah. But like some of the things that they'll say, like, bro, have some awareness. Like,
well, they just grew up in such a different time. So again, I'm glad that's being phased out. But how many times growing up versus now do you hear the phrase in a conversation, you can't say that?
Oh,
I hear that all the time. I never used to hear that.
No.
I hear that all, and it's mostly directed at me because I'm usually saying something that is borderline inappropriate. But you hear that all the time. You can't say that. Yeah. Well, yes, I can. Because I know the context, I know the scenario, I know my intent.
The only time I heard that, like growing up, was like when I'd say "shut up" or "but." Shut up! You can't say that.
But now it's said about some harmless joke about Darren, for instance.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, you can't say that. Like people are mortified.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. To me, that's why comedy has such a good run right now.
Yes.
Because
they're saying
things that everybody wants to say, but doesn't think that we can.
I bet would probably not be funny 15 years ago because you're like.
Okay. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, the jokes that are jokes now, you wouldn't have thought would be jokes 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
But they're killing it right now. It's such a good time for comedy because everybody's sitting there thinking, man, I wish I could say that. And so I think we need to take, again, certain scenarios, absolutely, have that governor. But I think you nailed it perfect. Emotional intelligence. Yeah. Understand what is worth making a big deal out of and what can slide, what can we ignore, or where's the intent?
That's right. If you're a dad out there, like what you and your buddies are talking about, like on Friday night after the game and the kids are playing outside, is probably not what you'd be saying when you're having dinner with your wife and kids, or at the workplace, or at church on Sundays, or whatever. Right? Yeah. Like, just have some awareness. It's like really basic knowledge, but like it just takes like maybe before you just start spouting off nonsense, maybe you like have a conversation, ask some questions that you can get to know that person and like maybe understand their position politically, economically, socially, whatever it may be, that you're like, okay, I'm picking up on that cue. Okay. I'm going to probably steer this way just to make sure that because hopefully we're out there that like, we're not out here thinking like, I'm trying to offend that person. Yeah. I would say most of the population, there's a handful of folks out there that their goal in life is just to offend people.
Right.
But like, I would hope that most of our population is like, I'm not trying to offend you. So let me learn about kind of the boundaries a little bit on what offends you and make sure I steer clear of it.
Yeah. Again, I'm all for a movement of love and empathy that's more inclusive. I love that general idea. Again, I just think that in certain corners of society we're maybe going about it a different way than what I'm comfortable going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so again, I think and for me and my household, it's teaching emotional intelligence. That's right. It's teaching love and empathy. It's teaching, when it's appropriate to make those, certain kind of jokes or what you should say. But completely banning words, I think that's not taking us in a healthy direction.
And let me clarify, I think what Ben and I are saying when we're talking about like emotional intelligence, when to say something and when not to say something. I'm not saying like, hey, like your racist jokes, like just make sure you say it with your buddies. Right. No, like we're talking about like number one is a heart thing is teaching them to love, be empathetic for everybody and love everybody. And so that's number one. What Ben and I are saying is like, you've got to be able to teach your kids to love everybody and not to buy into, all of these problems and, racism and division and all those things that like really are at the forefront of culture right now. But what I'm saying is also know that right now in our culture, normal language, standard language, something that is not meant from a bad place can be taken certain ways. So that's where the emotional intelligence comes in. I'm not saying like, hey, save all your like sexist, racist jokes for your buddies on Thursday night. No, I'm saying like have a heart behind that. Have a heart, like obviously like the degrading comedy humor, like thoughts, whether it's humor or not. Like, no, I'm not saying that's okay. What I'm saying though is just be aware.
Yeah. That's another thing that's phased out. And I guess it's just an age thing. It's just the sexual type jokes. We used to talk.
Yeah, it's just not that funny anymore. Because like we had Mark Herzlich on, which hasn't. I don't know if it's aired.
No, it aired Monday.
Okay, so cool. So Mark, he talked about like just how dads' expectations are different, and it's a good thing that we're more involved. We help around the house more compared to what it was like in the 50s, right? Suburbia, where it's like dad comes home, his wife's got the whiskey ready, dinner's made, kids are taken care of. Like the wife does everything at the house, like these gender roles. That's not the case. So I just don't think it's like as funny really anymore. Yeah. Like even like the Charles Barkley jokes that like he used to say about like being in the kitchen, like, why don't I wear a watch? Or why doesn't your wife wear a watch? Right? Because she's never out of eye shot from the kitchen stove or whatever. Like the terrible jokes. Because you hear those and you're like, that's not even that funny anymore. Because it doesn't relate, I think, to our culture.
I think it's like everything. There's a certain amount of good that comes to pushing it to a certain point. Yeah. But of course we've blown it up and the pendulum is just gonna swing.
For sure. Now ginger jokes, those are gonna be timeless. Those are always gonna be funny.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Gender ones, not so much. Ginger
like Tyler.
Like
Tyler's
me,
people.
Like my peoples. Those are always funny.
That's always funny. That'll never get old.
Also, here's another thought. Learn to laugh at yourself. Yeah. Like be okay laughing at yourself. Like that's one thing like Darren is like, he laughs like these old school stereotypical jokes. Like he'll laugh like, because there's a lot of stereotypes just because there's a shred of truth. I'm not saying it's all true, but there's a shred because it has to come from somewhere. That's why it's a stereotype. Right. And he just laughs about it. Yeah. Like if it's way off, he'd be like, no, that's stupid. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, you and your plantation owner family like need to shut up. But like when there's like a shred of truth, when we joke about something like generally food choices or like drink choices or the color of drink choices.
I won't say anything specific, but I know what you're talking about.
The color of fruit refreshments, right? Like he rolls because it like when you can laugh at yourself, like it's like, all right, like I totally get it. Like me and my buddies, that's what we drank.
These Wilksters better not ever see the text chain that you and I and Darren have together, because it's all that's the jokes. That's all it is. It's those type of he's giving it to us, we're giving it to him.
Yeah.
And our relationship is that's just how we are together. But if again, it's because we've built that relationship. That's right. We know each other. He knows our heart. He knows it's not coming from a place of hate.
Yep.
Or discrimination or racism. Like, he knows it's just all in good fun. Yeah. And so again, a society that can't joke around, to your point, that can't have fun with each other, that's not a society I want to be a part of. Nah. Again, it can be taken too far, and I'm all for that type of censorship. Yeah. But taking all fun and games out of it is not ideal either.
Our life is too short. Our time here, we have one shot at it.
Oh, that's so good, dude. I've heard that somewhere, David. Where have you heard that?
Too short. It's too short to not have fun. Like, too serious, worrying about, like, what can we say? What can't we say? How do we say it? What do we have to tell everybody to think like? It's like, no, guys, like, enjoy it. You're missing the point. God created this planet for us. One, like, to do good. And then two is to enjoy it. Like, if you read anything in the Bible, if you've ever spent any time in the Bible, talks more about the gifts that he gives us to enjoy. He, like, in my belief, my God doesn't want me unhappy.
Yeah.
Now, are there things that cause that? 99.999% of the time because of my doings? Yes. But, like, I think overall, we are designed and created to enjoy this life. It's too short to take it too serious.
I think the take-home point is find one of your buddies that's a different race than you and make fun of them for that race.
Yeah, I think you should.
Is that the point?
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to do.
Okay.
I'm glad you captured that.
I'm going to jump on that right after this.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Okay, never mind.
No, wait. I wasn't listening. What'd you say? What did I commit to?
Anyway, I'm just glad I don't live in some of these crazy places.
Golly.
I mean, literally, that's in the law. Like, they literally wrote that in law, that you can't say those words.
That's just in government documentation, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to walk down the street and arrest you for
citation.
Arrest you for that. Now that would be
California.
But is that where this leads? That's the question.
California would.
That's the question.
Yeah,
and that's why I know we're joking and having a good time, but the extremist here, the conspiracy theorists would say that's where you give a mouse a cookie, he wants a glass of milk,
crumb.
So you start banning a word. Does that lead to a society that's policing?
Sir, you are under arrest for using the word field. Please put down the needle of heroin. You are arrested for saying saying the word field. That's why you're going to jail, just to be clear.
It really is. Again, my part of me says it's not going to get to that point, but the other part is like, did we think it was going to get to this point?
I would say this, man. I would say this. Like, I totally disproved what I'm about to say this episode, but like, I'm kind of beyond the point where I'm going to be surprised.
Yeah.
Like, it could happen.
Yeah.
I just look at it though. I just look, and honestly, like, as I'm hearing this and the names of these people that are pushing these agendas, I honestly do just have empathy, and I'm sorry for them because they can't, honestly.
I'm sorry for them.
I just feel sorry.
I'm sorry that you are you.
I'm sorry that you have to. That is the fulfillment in life that you. That's where you find fulfillment because, like, that's sad.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lonely, sad, disappointing life.
Yeah.
When you are trying to force an agenda on people that, one, didn't even know that problem existed, and then two, like, what we talked about impact and mission, right? With Mark earlier this week. Like, what is removing the word field really going to do for the overall problems that you say you're trying to solve? Like, what is that really going to do?
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you go start a fundraiser and provide training or further education for inner city kids, or provide daycare so that single mothers can go out and, like, get good jobs? Like, why don't you do something that actually makes an impact instead of just removing words?
Well, yeah, it just goes back to, I want to show that I care about people.
But I don't actually want to do anything.
Right, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
So, actually, we're going to dive into, you said single motherhood next week. We're going to dive into our part 2 of is America the greatest country in the world, or is U.S. the greatest country in the world? And it's going to be revolved around statistics on marriage, divorce, and single parent households. Yep. And it's pretty. I've already done put the list. It's pretty staggering, very staggering the direction we're headed. So tune in for that one. Appreciate you guys. Let us know what you think. Maybe you completely disagree on this conversation.
This one, I'm gonna be interested to see what the feedback on this one is. You guys are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. Well, we are that's for sure. And you can say that, and it's not gonna hurt our feelings.
Hey, duh. Your words ain't hurt me.
Actually, you're the idiot for listening.
Joke's on you. You just wasted an hour of your time.
We're in your head right now. We own you. We're living rent free in your dome right now. No, but seriously, we love you. And we appreciate
really, for sure.
Please don't go anywhere. Please,
those of you that invested into letting us come into your dome,
please don't go away.
Please. We care about you so much.
Anyway, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week for that conversation. Any closing thoughts, Tyler? Any mean words you want to say to me?
No, man. I love everybody.
Yeah,
I love everybody, and I want everyone to have a great life.
In this one shot.
In this one shot of life that we have. We're gonna change the name of the show again because I say it so much. You're gonna be like, I'm over it, dude. Forget this name.
These guys are stupid.
We're gonna do an episode on everybody that's had 2 shots at life.
All right, appreciate you guys. See you next week.